Right, hello, welcome to the Sisyphus Complex Solution. This is episode 190, and this one is called Persecution, the reasons for which will become apparent as per usual. I'm going to be covering three offices this week, where the first two will be relatively quick. It's when I get into the third one that the title becomes relevant, and then also stick around after I've completed the process side of things so you can hear about the continuing saga of the morons at the DVLA. So mildly interesting, at least. So at least there's some practical information that I can give out here, and that rather than people saying that they're going to be doing something and never actually do. So let's get started. Oh, by the way, if anybody likes the image that's on the screen, this is something that I'm probably going to be doing a little bit more going forward, which is to use the available sort of the free AI, in so much as they are artificial intelligence. It's not, but never mind. In using these free systems in order to be able to create images that kind of go along with the theme of things. So this is me getting used to using this type of stuff. So if you like it, well, that would have been me, just giving a little bit of instruction. But anyway, right, so moving into the episode proper. Come on, here we go. Right, so first off, we've got the Royal Marines Museum. And it's another one of these museums that's no longer listed under the MOD. Have to cover it though in that, because it was a part of the original listings from the benchmark period. And it is still relevant, so because now it's held underneath the National Museum of the Royal Navy, as has been a bit of a theme with some of these. So what it does mean is, from an audit perspective, is that the numbers will have been included in the audit of the National Museum entity, and that's already been covered. But exactly what part of the National Museum holds the artifacts suggested in the description, in their description, it's not really clear, but I expect that they'll still be available for viewing within the collections list that they have. So I'm assuming that this is all still up and running of some description. I do think that it's worth noting, just as a little piece of information, that the Marines were established so very early in 1664, because if you consider that the Navy had only been established in 1546, then you're talking about something that was only basically 120 years apart. And then if you consider the particular special nature of this, the development of going into the Marines, that's a relatively quick development, I would suggest, at least, and probably went a long way towards the reason why England stopped being a nation subject to constant invasion from the bloody European aggressors. Perhaps a little bit of a lesson to be learnt there. But never mind, not much else to add about the Royal Marines Museum. Same thing really goes for this Royal Navy Submarine Museum, which is based out in Gosport. I mean, not only are they no longer listed under the MOD, but they also don't even have their own proper logo anymore, or even sort of like standard government issue letterhead type of thing. So again, with this one, at least they are named directly when you go to, again, being listed underneath this National Museum of the Royal Navy. So it is still something that takes place, but it's not something that I need to be looking into the numbers again. From the remaining government website information compared to the details given on the National Museum site, the main difference seems to be how they tend to be promoting the historical subs, like the Holland that you can see on the screen here, but I don't see any mention of the Alexander the Great reference that's from the main government website, and what was actually known at the time as the Bathy which is basically, I mean, the Bathy just basically meant deep, and this is being considered it's a bit of a stretch to say that this is the historical link to submarines, to be honest. But if that's if they want to make that kind of connection, so be it. I don't mind. There's not really much else to say here either. So if you do want to visit and see some of these subs, I'd say it's based out in Gosport, and that's basically Portsmouth. So those are available to be looked at via the National Navy Museum, whatever it was called. So there's 2 of the offices completed already. Quite simple, straightforward. Time for a sip of wine. Now the simple and straightforward shifts into something different now. And here we get the Service Complaints Ombudsman, specific to the armed forces. Now, what I have to say on this one initially is that the numbers for this particular office are found in their business plan documents, not the annual reports. And so that, in terms of standards is concerned, is a problem. The only reason why I managed to find these particular documents was because I come across a question in the Commons, somebody asking the exact same thing that I was looking for. And so that does also then suggest that you've got MPs struggling with how these people seem to think they're supposed to be reporting their numbers as well. The problem, a secondary problem then, is the fact that when an MP is turning around and having this problem and having to ask these questions in whether it was a committee or actually in Parliament itself, doesn't really matter. The problem is that once they get the advice as to where to find the numbers, why don't they then follow up and say, why don't you just put it in your annual report like you're supposed to? But ho-hum, common sense is not exactly the fort of an MP, is it? And it's a much wider reporting problem in general. So anyway, in terms of the benchmark period, we've got a taxpayer burden of over 2 million. We've got an average salary of 47.5k, rounding, and a cost of employment at 73%. Over the 5 years that I can cover under the fake Tories, we can see that the staff levels have basically decreased a little bit from already low numbers. But that's something we're going to have to park for the time being. We then also get some up and down in terms of the overall taxpayer burden, the salaries, and also the cost of employment. But with the numbers that we're looking at, it doesn't really take too much to know that just a small amount on that makes for quite a wide variable. Now, what we do have then is the first year of the Labour numbers. And the main standout here is the big jump in the average salary. Now, having said that, that's within a single year. But if we looked at the difference between 2019, 2020, the benchmark period, and then 2021 to 2022, that 2-year period would represent a higher level of pay increase. So just so that I'm being fair on this. But for that level of jump in a single year, Labour, what can I tell you? But overall though, and that what we can say is, once again, based on the fake Tory period, no sign of austerity. Now, because you should probably know what an ombudsman is by now, I have covered the main ombudsman's office previously. And if you don't know that, then the short version is that this is where you go to make complaints. But I do want to give you a bit of a fair warning before I go to the next slide, because I'm going to be beginning with who the Service Complaints Ombudsman is. You have been warned. Okay. As per the recommendation of Johnny Mercer, the fake Tory, and apparently a former commando, which does make me wonder if we're dealing with another sort of Mike Tapp of Dover from the Communist Labour Party side, who admitted that during his particular, what would be correctly called a sojourn, under the pretense of being in the military, that all he ever did was sit down in the mess and eat Pizza Hut and Subway, before then deciding to become a traitor in Labour. So yeah, I do have questions about Johnny Mercer when we got this coming out. So what we've got here then is exactly the kind of the liberal dyed hair, modern languages grad that you would expect to see these days in these kinds of offices. But now we can see it holding office in the Ministry of Defence. Oh, I don't know. It's a madhouse, it really is. I know you're not supposed to go on appearances only in that, but I mean, it's just constant, isn't it? The stereotype is always true. But anyway, don't worry, because she was previously in the legal services ombudsman as well. And she managed to get in there because she spent 5 minutes attending an aspiring leaders course. Because, you know, that's more important than actually knowing anything about the law. And she also previously had a job as head of impact. And yeah, I had to look that up as well. And basically, it's just a non-job for activists. Now, at this point, I did previously have some back and forth with a fella online called Pete North. I think I've mentioned him before. I've had a bit of a backwards and forth with him previously, and then this week he's been promoting the importance of quangos, of which effectively this is one. And according to him, nobody seems to understand what these quangos do except for him. Where I've pointed out that my process actually checks and audits these offices, and that I can show exactly how bad they are. And then in addition, how in certain circumstances, where this is a prime example, the name of the office doesn't really mean anything when it's occupied by unqualified activists falling upwards. This is not an important office. When it's being treated as something that is unimportant, that means it's unimportant. It's ridiculous. As far as I'm concerned, defence of this kind of stuff is merely just being yet another socialist that wants big daddy government all over the place. So when you've got people out there and that are sort of pretending to be, you know, like one of us type of thing, and then in reality just turn out to be promoting everything that effectively makes them no better than a Fabian, then no. Big no to that. So like I say, it's literally, I mean, as soon as I saw this face, and it literally is, as soon as you go to the website of this particular forces ombudsman, I mean, it's just bang, straight in your face. It's the first thing that they want to promote, as if it's literally like, yeah, we're gonna twist your face, you turn your nose into this one. Look at what we did. So as soon as I saw the face, I thought, oh, for God's sake, what? I know what we're dealing with here. And so I thought, well, the little bit of blurb that they've got for her is definitely not going to be sufficient. And so I then determined to go out and specifically find her CV. And you know, there's just a snippet of it at the bottom there, and that with the so-called qualifications. Absolutely astounding. I mean, the qualification side of things basically just confirms exactly what I thought. But you know, we don't stop there, do we? Because just literally finding out that the person at the top and that is a bit of a moron is never really sufficient. So, firstly, we need to understand what it is that they claim to do. and also understand that this particular office has only existed since 2016. So we've had a rather long and successful history of the military that didn't really need to be run by a libtard with an irrelevant degree to cope. And I can also say that during the audit period of this mission statement, you know, the things that they're actually supposed to do. So I find this just so staggering. But since as I'm looking at this and that, going back to the benchmark period, I had to look and see, well, you know, how long has this particular lesbian-looking thing been in office? And so during the particular period, she hasn't been there for the entire time. So prior to her, what we did have was the standard sort of the die. You had the die black woman in charge, but at least she was a barrister. You know, give her that much. She did at least have a bit of a proper tick in the box, not just the standard sort of criteria that they have these days. But even then, if we begin with her and her time in office, and let's have a little bit of a look at an article that she was involved with from 2020. What you've got to do here and that is read this correctly, in essence, because obviously here she is focusing on the minorities. And she begins by saying how the number of complaints they make is disproportionate to the number that are actually inside the military. Now, the sleight of hand comes in here and that with reducing slightly but not enough. But then she gets straight back on track with wanting them to have more confidence to complain without adverse impact on their career. Right. So what you've got here, and when you understand the game, you've got the black woman encouraging complaints from her client base, if you know what I mean. And so in the case of these minorities, she has to keep that client class in mind, and she has to be the one that focuses entirely on them and wants to spend all of her time concentrating on, is me BAME getting their complaints out? Because me BAME got to be complaining. It really is farcical. And the reason why we can make this basic statement, because it is just so blatant all the time, because we can go from that and then go through to 2025 under the hair dye woman. Now we get into a situation where, strangely enough, the client base is now women. The women are ahead of the minorities. Strange how that works, isn't it? Literally, when the head of the office changes, the client class changes accordingly. So under this particular libtard, despite falling numbers across the military, as in the sheer number of people that are in the military, she had a 30% increase in complaints, and she's happy about that. Further into the article, she gleefully reports about how 20% of all complaints are coming from women, whilst only 12% of women being in the forces. So what you've got here is the client class being encouraged to be disruptive. And it also is a little bit useful to know this and that, because prior to this, she puts in her annual report not the numbers, but she likes to go on about how many people she's been able to persuade to complain and disrupt. But within her annual report, she wrote that the female complaints were 23%. So she obviously couldn't remember what the numbers were herself because, it's a bit of a common problem with libtards and understanding simple maths. And then in May of 2025, well, wouldn't you know it, there's money to be made. And conveniently, half of this gets swallowed up by those parasite activist lawyers. Are you understanding what this office is in reality yet? Am I dropping enough hints here and that? And, well, actually, they're not even hints, are they? It's really quite blatant. When you've got your client class, and it's never white men, guess what is really happening to our boys here? The ones that make up the majority of the military. Guess what's happening to them here? And then they wonder why the numbers are falling. But then the timing of me looking at this is actually quite good, because in terms of overall the considerations about the lawfare against our boys, there is a bigger story this week, not relevant to this particular office, but it builds on this wider problem of how they're just attacking everybody of any value to the country. Because this is one page. I mean, I've got a few links in the description, but both Starmer and the current Attorney General, this Hermer, they both worked for free to assist in advising how our boys could be persecuted. And they did this back in 2007. Like I say, it's a wider story that you can use some of the links that I've got in the description, or you can look up further for yourself. But the basic point to be made here is that we've got ideologues that have been pushing demoralisation, all based on their ideology, and where they're making sure that you have other offices that are also demoralising and disrupting our boys, all in the favour of their client class. And then this particular man that thinks that he's now in a position where he would be able to send our boys into war, and that our boys have got to remember that if they did go anywhere near a battlefield, these are the same people that will then persecute and prosecute you if you do. Because they can push their ideology, they can destroy things, they can dismantle things, and they can make some money while they're doing it. That's what these people do. And just in case there's any useful idiot women out there that seem to think that yeah, they can go now suddenly jump into the military and that and get their 30 pieces of silver, well, pay attention to some of the articles that are coming out about this, because the one in particular that's called the Iraq veterans betrayed by Starmer, because they come after you as well. So any 30 pieces of silver that you think you might be getting now, and also on the understanding that they get more of the money than you do. But then if you do happen to then stay in there and not thinking, oh, everything's all right, I'm the client class, I'm going to get looked after. No, they'll come after you then afterwards. We are really seriously dealing with levels of scum never known before. And to be very clear about this scum is happy to see you destroyed or dead. When you see some of the stories of what these people have done to our boys and to some of the girls as well, though, like I say, my opinion is that women should never be in the military anyway. But when you see what they've done, and they're still doing the same shit all over again, and they're coming out with, oh yeah, we want to conscript more of you and that, and we want to send you in to fight the Russians. Fuck off. Absolutely disgusting. So, hence the title of the episode, Persecution. Disgraceful behaviour. But not a surprise. So in terms of the financials, here's the cumulative for the benchmark year, adding in the cost of that services ombudsman, where, to remind you, that I'll show the full 5 years at the end of the MOD. In terms of policies then, I've put the two museums in review because, as with the others now, under the main sort of Navy Museum, the indication is that the reporting system at least needs to be rectified. So I'm not going to make any direct sort of complaints about that as such. Now, despite the like I say, the protestations of people like Socialist Pete, yes, I would absolutely abolish this Services Ombudsman Office, with the main reason being, as I've obviously explained, is that this literally exists to prosecute and harass our soldiers. It's not there to help them in any way, shape or form. Get rid of these libtards and these parasites. And if we're going to do anything at all, review all of the records since it's been in existence, go back to 2016, and see the damage that they've done, and see what needs to be rectified, up to and including investigating why the hell that Johnny Mercer thought it was a good idea to recommend this unqualified, presumably lesbian. Because something was very, very wrong there. If you wonder what should happen instead of having this Office of Persecution, you don't really need one, do you? And we seem to have managed to get along for quite a few hundreds of years without a bunch of whining leftist bloody idiot ideologues and then their whining client class. So there you go, there's your solution to that. So now we get into the life drama of the DVLA. Two parts to this, effectively, but right, as you can see, on the 27th, I had a letter telling me that they were going to dispose of my car on the 29th, yesterday. So I had to be a good little doggy and give them my money. Now, the interesting thing about this is that it came from a company called NSL Limited, which is owned by Marston Holdings, which does become relevant. Well, the day prior to this, I had sent my first invoice to the DVLA for £12,000, as I told them this would happen. And I also told them that the clock is still running. Obviously, when I'd got this letter come through, I let my opinions be known to the DVLA. But then I also wrote directly to this Marston Holdings, seeing as neither the DVLA or this NSL were actually responding to anything whatsoever. So D-Day arrived yesterday, and I've sort of made my peace that my vehicle might be lost. But essentially taking this as being the start of the real fight. So I sent a message to them and said, well, okay, so if this is the day that the vehicle is being disposed of, the invoice now includes the cost of the car. And so with the other additional daily running costs, the invoice is now 31,000. So then they respond. Apparently the deadline is now going to be February the 5th or next Thursday. And somehow I'm supposed to contact yet another organisation, because they do love trying to send you in circles, these people, whilst they all pretend it's nothing to do with them. But then they also said this, and here we get into phase one of the Shaggy song routine of It Wasn't Me. So, in my response to that is, you're lying. As per the name and address on the bloody letter. Don't tell me you're something that you're not. I mean, these people are such retards. I mean, the guy that actually took the car in the first place lied and said he was with the DVLA when he wasn't. And now they're claiming that they sent me a letter that has come through to me wasn't sent by them, but it was sent by the DVLA, despite the fact that, as you can see from the address that's at the top there, yes, it was them. As I've said in the reply there and that, these people, they just can't help themselves. They have to lie. So, at this point, I was going to say, as things stand, my girl here remains kidnapped, but presumably in one piece. But, as I've said, I fight over these things. I don't kowtow to useful idiots and dictators, and neither should any of you. I've also, by the way, got a few little countermeasures in place, but more on that when required. But I'd made this sort of preparation last night because, you know, I mean, I do have other things to do. And then today, I'm not going to put any of this up on screen because, like I said, I've been busy with other stuff today. But today, I then get a response from the DVLA saying that they were responding to my initial complaint basically on the day that I'd determined that the clamp had been put on. Saying that, oh yeah, we're now going to investigate this fully and it'll take me 10 days to be able to investigate it. Okay. So I wrote back straight away and said, well, okay, so you're going to take 10 days and I've got my second so-called warning now saying that the car is going to be disposed of on February the 5th, which is before your 10 days would end. So you might want to start having a conversation with people here. And rather than doing what these people do of thinking that they're all going to hit me from different angles, I like to make sure that they're all, the little knitting circle can't try to come at me from those different angles, and I respond to all of them at once. So they can't claim that they didn't understand. And then lo and behold, within, couldn't have been more than an hour, I suddenly then get this response from the same person that said that, oh no, I need to investigate and I need 10 days to do it. And miraculously, this great big response said, oh, I've looked into it thoroughly, I've got all of the information, I know this, that and the other. All of which says, I've investigated myself, I did nothing wrong, you're the one that's the wrong. As always happens. Now, within that was also a claim of a letter from January the 26th that was supposed to have been this response to my complaint from December the 11th. And I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, what letter from January the 26th? And then I hear the door go. And Mr. Postman has arrived. And Mr. Postman has got a letter for me from the DVLA. Now, if you remember, I asked a few various questions. I was turning around and pointing out to them and saying, well, look, your system is crap. I can't do anything with it, or it won't let me do anything with it. And while I'm at it, here's some questions. Well, we get the first part of the wonderful letter that is turning around and telling me how there are various factors to being able to calculate the road tax, and apparently it's done by the Chancellor of the Exchequer. So according to this, Rachel from accounts sits down and does all of this. Find that a bit unlikely, don't you? Mind you, considering how ridiculous it is, it's entirely possible. But they say that there's different factors that go into it. And those factors include when the car was first registered, size of the engine, and the CO2 emissions. Right, so that's including, which kind of suggests there's more to it than that. So what's the more to it then? Because in terms of a range of different factors, that's 3. So it's not really complicated, is it? But then, in addition to that, we get this. With the nice little, I've coloured it in blue. Look, these ones here and that, and this one's yours. And that's supposed to be an explanation. It isn't. It isn't even close. So, I've had to respond to them again. Because also within this longer thing and that of saying it wasn't me, somehow their mental delusion is that I'm somehow now responsible for not having handed over my money during a period while they're sitting around contemplating their navel to come up with this non-answer. No. No. So, next stage, because I'm sure the February the 5th deadline is going to end up having to be moved as well. Because I've come across all of this shit before. The next stage. Well, we've dealt with it in our complaints department. Well, no, you haven't, Margaret. And so you then go to, but the higher complaints. Yeah, right. Well, basically, I've stuck out the complaint to the higher complaint and said, right, you need to get off your backside with this one. You should have all the information. If you don't have all the information, then you might want to start actually communicating with me instead of just making shit up. Like Margaret's just done. And by the way, the longer you take, the clock's ticking. I'm going to invoice you for it. Simultaneously, I've made sure old Polly Does Nothing, the local MP, has been given instruction that this is going to need to go to the Parliamentary Ombudsman. Do I believe that the Ombudsman would do anything? Of course not. Not the point. If you remember, I've made the videos and that about the code of conduct and so forth. Well, it all applies across the public sector. And when I'm getting crap like this, then it's a charge of misconduct in public office. So I want a charge of misconduct in public office put against these people. So let's say, when I say I'm going to fight, I will fight. And I'll do it I'll do it according to the so-called system, to a degree. One of the other little things that I've made sure that I have in place for future reference is a nice little toolkit that I've bought myself. The Southord PXS 14. If you know, you know. A little bit of preparation for the future. I do love my toolkits. But then the thing about it is, and the advice I'm giving to you here, and that is, you do have to push back. I've come across so many people. I mean, when this all first started to kick off, literally everybody that I know, and even a bunch of buggers that I don't know, were like, "Oh, I'll just pay it, just pay it, just pay it." No. No. The reason why we end up with this sort of nonsense is because everybody just gives in. I don't. And neither should anybody else. You don't just give in to these people. Despite the fact that they want to behave like they're dictators, they're not. And so we push back. Now, at some point, is my little girl there and that going to end up being destroyed? Potentially. Will I give up? No. Not a chance in hell. And I will push and push more. And I will go however long the complaints process wants to go on for, and then I'm prepared for after that as well. So I've been here before. I won't go into the full details of what that one was about, but suffice to say that I did get a nice check at the end of it. You don't give in to these people, and you pay attention to every word they say. You make sure that they don't lie to you, as they did here. And they keep trying to push this thing to say, oh, well, yeah, but we're contracted to the DVLA, therefore we're the DVLA. No, you're not. No, you're not. And why is it that these people only got off their arse when I was the one that contacted the holding company? They were the ones that went into panic mode when I said, I'm going to be invoicing you. All of these other lazy bastards, especially the bloody DVLA, and sending me a fucking email saying, oh, according to my records, my colleague sent you a letter on January the 26th that didn't arrive until today. So if I'd have just left that all to them, my car would have been destroyed last week. Retards. Always remember, these people in these government offices, there's nothing there. Literally nothing there. This is not an answer. It's not an answer. This is not an answer. This is not an answer. These people seem to think, oh, I'll send you 3 pages. That'll suddenly confuse you and make you give in. Idiots. I can't be doing with it. I really can't be doing with it. So, there's the update of what's going on with the DVLA and the fight that I'll be prepared to go to, as opposed to others that say that they're going to fight about something and not comply with things and then just go ahead and comply with everything. And I say, if other people have these kinds of issues, feel free to sort of, I mean, whether it's directly on here or on, I mean, X is a good one because then you can actually tag in the department that's responsible for it, because I've tagged in the DVLA on so many things. I also tagged them in on, there was a group of illegal immigrants that were in a car that had no road tax, no MOT, no insurance, and the police were literally escorting them. I said, "Oh, that's okay, is it?" Again, this comes up with the racism side of things. I mean, as far as today is concerned, I've not really focused too much on that, but I've still got it in the locker. They'll let illegal immigrants go driving around the UK. The police won't stop one. DVLA doesn't do anything about it. A bit like the fella that hit my car 2 years ago. They don't do anything, but they think they can come after me. Oh no. Mm-mm. No. So I know that there's going to be people out there that if they do come across these sort of situations, and you will have the family members, friends, and so forth that just pay it, just give in. It's too much hassle. Don't listen. I mean, make sure that you've got the gumption and you know what you're doing in terms of being able to respond to these people. So I said, there's nothing in the handbook that said if you've sent out a complaint to the DVLA, then also complain to the NSL or also complain to the holding company. That's not in the playbook. It's literally write to the DVLA, they won't respond, and then they'll say, wasn't me, and then you're going to get forced into it anyway. You don't have to go along with their playbook. Understand how it actually does work and who the players are. So if you find that sort of thing a little bit difficult, then yeah, you do need to have a conversation with somebody else. But there's always a way. Always a way. Because I said, when they turned around and had this response to me saying, oh, according to this act of 1964 or whatever the fuck it was, I said, I don't give a damn. You can stick every single act that you want to pluck out of your backside right back up there again. I'm in dispute with you because you wouldn't allow me to use your stupid bloody IT systems that doesn't accept anything, and then you've refused to answer my question, and you still have. It's a non-answer. Oh look, I put some blue marker pen up. Idiot. So they do look and think that they're dealing with people of the same level of low IQ that they've got. And it ain't gonna happen with me. And I say, if there's other people out there that do need to be able to push back in a similar way, because it's not just about things like the road tax. It's about a whole raft of different things. If you're turning around and if you're one of these people like me in that where you have to do your own accounts, I mean, not entirely true in that I'll get an accountant to file for me, but he basically files the information that I've given to him. When they turn around and whether it's directly from the HMRC or even sometimes from the accountant themselves, and says, oh no, you can't actually claim for that. And say, yes, I bloody can. Yes, I can. You don't just take whatever you're told for verbatim. You look at things yourself and go, is this right? Yes or no? This type of stuff and that can be good for you and that because it'll give you a bloody good education, if nothing else. How is this system actually working and not working? And start to really narrow down on it. Because I mean, when you've got the likes of your ideologues, your Starmers, and all of these fuckers that are in the civil service and public sector. Oh, I think you'll find according to Section C, paragraph 3. Yeah, bullshit. I think you'll find I don't have to do a damn thing that you're saying unless you can bloody well justify it. Argue the case. Don't just give in. I mean, if it's something that's absolutely black and white, 100%, yep, you're obliged to do this. Fine. Don't have a problem with that. But when they want to screw you into the ground, I mean, a good example of this and that I've really hated is this argument about the pubs and how they've ramped up the business rates and that of the pubs. And everybody's saying, well, that means all the pubs are going to close. And my reaction to that has been, why would you even just accept that? I mean, I understand that at the moment, and that the next stage that it's at is that, oh, Rachel from accounts has understood the problem and that, and so she's just going to steal a little bit less from you. Why don't you all get together and say, how about fuck off? If you think that I'm going to be running a company and spending all my time working on a company, for you to come in and just steal it all to the extent that I've now got to close it down, how about fuck off? It ain't happening. It's absolutely retarded. The amount of people that just tolerate crap. It should be a bigger case as well, that with everybody getting together around the energy sector. And the way they lie, and I mean, the latest one is, oh, we've saved you £150. Oh, fuck off. The bills just went up. You haven't saved jack shit. And take it back to 1992 when you started all of this nonsense in the first place. With your benchmarks for your CO2. Where's your benchmarks for your bloody energy prices? Keep the same price that you had in 1992. The same way as you want to keep the same benchmark for your CO2 emissions. No? Fuck off. Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. People have really got to understand that they don't have to just tolerate this crap. So when you get the people online that say, oh, I don't comply, oh, I'm going to... No substance. Talk amongst yourselves and go, right, so this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. How are we going to push back against this? If you can't do it yourselves, get together with people. How do we push back against this? What is it that we need to look up? Who do we need to contact? What are the actual benchmarks for these things? What are the confounders? Because that's the thing about this bullshit calculation. Oh, it includes factors such as... Oh, really? I want the full list. Because when the good thing about this is that when they talk about this emission thing, because factors, right. If you're talking about a factor has variables. You want to turn around and tell me that any particular vehicle has the exact amount of CO2 emissions consistently across all of those vehicles. Same make, same model. Well, what if your car's been sat there for a year and not moved? How many emissions are you responsible for there? Is everybody's engine subject to the same wear and tear? Those are variables that you don't seem to want to consider. You just want to be able to go, oh, yeah, here you go. Here's my bullshit number that I've just plucked out my backside. And there you go. And again, how do they calculate these emissions? Oh, we plugged something into it. We had a test car, we plugged something into it. Oh, great. How did that work out in Dieselgate? You remember, that time when everybody was being told, oh, you must buy a diesel car because it's far more polluting than a petrol. You must buy a diesel car because it's far less polluting than a petrol car. And then you find out that's not true. Everything these people come out with is a lie. You want to tell me how much CO2 my car is kicking out? Well, you're not going to get it from asking Lexus, are you? You're not going to get it from going back to the, oh, I think you'll find on the record, when this was released in that year, it came out with this thing. No, I don't care. I don't care. And apart from anything else, oh, terrible me, I'm kicking out plant food. Fucking idiots. I don't know. I was going to remain calm during this. But, as I've put myself at peace in that to say, right, okay, there's a very distinct possibility I might lose my car here. I won't lose the war, but I might lose that battle. Ho-hum, such is life. I'm more interested in winning the war. I did see a message that on this X thing that Jeremy Clarkson had put up in the week, where he put up an article from some woman saying that she'd had her old vehicle for something like 15 years or so, and it wasn't quite doing the job that she needs now, and she's getting on in years, and she's going to have to get rid of it and get a new car, and she can't understand why she's emotionally attached to this vehicle. I'm not going to say that I have that same level of emotional attachment, but what I did respond to him was, because I put up another post and that directed specifically at the DVLA about this intention to destroy my car, and I just said, Jeremy, mate, some of us don't get a choice. That's getting a little bit of attention. You can get very emotional about this sort of stuff, whether it's the item that is being stolen from you, the situation that is arising from it. And I suppose there's a part of this and that it makes a bit of a difference with me in that because of my age now. Because if this sort of stuff had been going on with me when I was in my 20s, I'd have been screaming blue murder and I'd have been out on the streets trying to bloody attack somebody for it. I'm a bit more reserved nowadays. But as I have pointed out to people in the past, I'm nice until I'm not. Make of that what you will. You don't want the not. I'll get irritated more than anything else these days. The real inner potential tends to be able to tamper that down these days. There's been times in the past where it didn't work out too well for certain other people, but never mind. So like I said, I thought I'll just give the update. You know, calm down. Don't go overboard with it. And I don't think I am, realistically. I think there's a lot more people that would get an awful lot more irate. And the thing is, when you do start getting overly emotional about this sort of stuff, that's when you can start to make mistakes. And I did notice in one of my responses earlier on, grammatically, what I'd said was not exactly the way that it should have been. And I've sort of looked at it afterwards and thought, that's when you started getting pissed off. But you can't help it. Realistically, you can't help it. You can try to keep it tempered down as much as you can, but it's gonna bubble up to a certain degree. And the only thing that I can suggest in terms of that is that, and it does very much depend on what it is that you're actually dealing with, what you're being presented with, and what the actual problem is. But the advice I would give is that when you're going through this sort of stuff, as much as it's very, very easy to get incredibly angry, play the process, but play the process against them. Play their own process against them. If you do that, at the end of the day, I say there's always option B, but go with option A to begin with and follow it through. Despite the fact that they do try to go with the, oh, you should have complained to this person, oh, you should have contacted this person, oh, you should have done this. They try to muddy the waters as much as they possibly can. And the best way to deal with that is to threaten them with money and misconduct in public office. Certain words that you can use. And then there's the racist card as well, which we can throw back at them now. I know that they still don't think that that exists, but it is a thing. They wanted to play that game. They wanted to introduce it. We'll use it. All of the tools that they want to think that they have at their disposal. And bear in mind, the people that you're dealing with are the likes of a Starmer. And if anybody has got the delusion to think that somebody like Starmer or Hermer are intelligent people, no, they're not. Not in the slightest. Right, I think this has been... there's a whole bunch of other stuff in that I could rant on about for bloody ages with this, but I think I'll leave it there, because I've probably started to go a little bit incoherent anyway. But, main point really, always fight. Don't just accept anything. And then, in terms of the process side of things, I say, if ever you come across these situations where people are saying, oh no, these offices are important. Oh, if we didn't have this, if you didn't have X, then Y would happen. Which is actually a part of the process that I do anyway, not because you're supposed to be about understanding not only what they do, but the consequences if it goes away. Well, when you've got an office that is set up to persecute our boys, that going away is a good thing. That is the consequence of that. Taxpayer saving, stop giving money to parasites, and leave our boys alone. And there you go. Here endeth the lesson. Take care. See you next week.